Good morning, everyone, and most especially to our Professor Doc Melissa Napil. I am Nurjana Manguntawar, and I'll be reporting about the classical education philosophy. Of my reports are the following. First is the definition, second is the instruction, third is the assessment, fourth will be the curriculum, and the last one will be the classroom management. What is classical education? The classical education movement is a form of education that emphasizes history, literature, and language studies within a modern school framework. The term classical education has been used in Western culture for several centuries, with each era modifying the definition and adding its own selection of topics. A philosophy rooted in the history and culture of the Western world, classical education includes both a classical approach, encouraging deep and thoughtful reading and writing within a moral frame, and classical content such as the study of ancient Greek and Latin literature, history, art, and languages. Classical education draws from the best of the Western canon. It relies on the character, thoughts, and ideas of the great men and women who have preceded us. What students study and read is not just great because it is old, but because it is timeless. Aristotle, Augustine, Shakespeare, Euclid, Homer, and many others are the giants upon whose shoulders classical education built. Introducing young students to the greatest individuals and events from history lays foundation for greater depth of learning as they grow. History is the backbone of a coherent study of all subjects. The goal of classical education, then, is the study of the classics in the original languages and the liberal arts, the best that has been thought and said, and the intellectual skills that equip a student to think critically. The role of teachers in classical education. Teachers in classical school go about the work of formation in two main ways. In the first place, they strive to instill good habits. A fine lecture is useless to the student who has not developed the habit of listening. Second, teachers model what they want their student to become. The instruction of classical education, the classical approach teaches students how to learn and how to think. Regardless of their learning style, children learn in three phases or stages. The first one is a grammar, logic or dialect, and the third one is the rhetoric, known as the trivium. In the grammar stage of K to 6, students are naturally adept at memorizing through songs, chants, and rhyme. The assessment of classical education, students' work and performance should be assessed by instructors who are qualified to assess what has been taught. Assessment should include but not must be limited to analytical and numeric assessment. If teachers are unable to assess students' performance, they should not be teaching. If they are able, they must be trusted, for only a person with judgment can exercise the discretion necessary for the successful instruction. In the curriculum of classical education, the homeschool curriculum for a classical education will provide a core knowledge of the subjects of language, arts, mathematics, science, and history. Put a particular emphasis on Latin learning, logic, and rhetoric. Employ the trivium to explain the stages of child learning development. The last one is the classroom management of classical education. The classical classroom is just slightly more serious-minded and stripped down, because a classical education classroom will use more direct instruction, with the teacher speaking to the students and the students listening or taking notes. Desk face the instructional space where the teacher expects to stand. These are the sources of my report about the classical education. Again, I am Nurjana Imam Tawar and hope that you learn from my report about the classical education. And thank you for listening.